What's up YouTube and welcome to a new video. Now if you ever purchased a Ferrari, it's likely that you came across the term resale red. It is this term that represents the idea that a used red Ferrari demands a premium over a used non-red Ferrari. But is this a fact or a myth? That's what we will find out in today's video. Now when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that red Ferraris go for a premium. Many of us dream about owning a Ferrari one day, and when we think about the car, there's a good chance that it's red. Red is then also especially popular among first-time Ferrari buyers. The color famously originates from the beginning of the 20th century, when racing cars had to be painted in their respective national color. Needless to say, Italy's national color is red. However, thanks to this heritage, there are also a lot of red Ferraris on the market. In the early 90s, 85% of the produced Ferraris was red, yet the number decreased to 45% by 2011. Evidently this is a lot lower, but still shows that red is a very popular color. It does however highlight an important aspect. Is there such a thing as resale red in a market where the majority of the cars are red? Let's have a look at the Ferrari models after the year 2000 and figure out if the red ones are more expensive. And to do this we need two things. First of all, we need data. Lots of data. Second, we need a sound methodology. Now I've been showing you market updates for older and newer Ferrari models, but unfortunately we can't use all of that data. In order to determine if a red car is more expensive, a significant proportion of the market needs to have a red color. And this is not the case for the FF and the GTC for Lusso market, so we will not evaluate them in this video. However, this is an interesting finding by itself. Usually GTC for Lussos and FF buyers are not first-time Ferrari buyers, and the color selection seems to be a reflection of that. Red is underrepresented in both markets. Now what we do have and will use for this video is multiple snapshots at different timestamps for a large variety of Ferrari models. So we have the data. But the second thing what we need is a sound methodology. It's very tempting to just look at the median prices for each color and check if the red ones are more expensive than the non-red ones. But unfortunately this doesn't work. The red ones can be more expensive because they, for example, have a manual transmission, because they are newer, or because they have a lower mileage. Therefore, when we evaluate how important the color red is for the price of a car, we need to account for other factors. There are a few ways in which you can do this, but for this video I chose to estimate a model which shows how much red contributes to explaining the price variation in the market. Yet, before we dive into the data, I want to highlight that color in general has only a small role in explaining the price variation of a car. As you might have seen in my other videos, it's usually the model year, the mileage, and one or two other factors which are the main price drivers. However, we need to be careful with generalizing this. For example, it might be so that on average color is not relevant for the price. If you look at a black and a silver Ferrari, which have an identical specification, it's not likely that one will be priced higher than the other. However, if we assume that the resale red rumor is true, a red one could have gone for a big premium. Therefore, the effect of color might be small when generalized, but it might be significant when looking at a red one. I hope that this makes sense. But let's have a look now at the different models. We will start with the mid-engine market and then have a look at the front-engine market. Over here we have the importance of each factor for the price of a base 360. The Challenge Stradales are not included. Furthermore, you need to know that these numbers are based on 3 market snapshots between 2019 and 2021. And we will spend a little bit longer with this graph than what we will do with the other models, just so that we're all on the same page. Now then, you can see that we have on the horizontal axis the relative contribution to the price variation in the 360 market, and on the vertical axis the different variables. Combining all of these variables, we can explain around 73% of the price variation. And in explaining this 73%, we can see that it's the transmission type that is key. Manuals have a clear positive effect on the prices, as they contribute with roughly 23% to explaining the price variation, whereas automatics have a negative effect on the price. You can see that it's even more important than the mileage. Now if we look at the items which have a positive effect, we can see that the color red ranks extremely high. With 11.3% it's second on the list, hereby confirming that red cars are indeed more expensive. Contrary to this, we can also see that color is not that relevant if the car has any other color than red. The color black, blue, yellow and grey all have a negligible contribution to explaining the price variation. But what happens if we zoom in a little bit further and for example only look at the automatics? It makes the comparison a lot fairer. Well, we can see that things change as expected. Mileage is now the key price determinant, followed by the model year. Yet after that we can see again a positive impact from the color red. So for the 360 it's fair to conclude that red cars are more expensive. But what about the other cars? Let's have a look. But before we do so, if you like this video, please support the channel by clicking on the like button down below. Thank you. You can also follow me on Instagram if you like. It's @FourWheelTrader. Let's continue now with the F430. Over here we have the price drivers for the automatic ones. Also in this market it's first and foremost the transmission type which sets the price, even more so than in the 360 market. But because the number of manuals is so small, I thought we can immediately have a look at the automatic market. We can see first of all that mileage is the key price driver. In fact, the contribution is with 29.5% almost identical to the 29.6% of the 360 market. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Now when we look at the colors, we can see that red is the color which pushes prices up the most, but the effect is less profound than in the 360 market. You can see that the bar sticks out less. What's quite aligned though is the effect of each color. In both markets, red and blue tend to have a positive impact, while yellow, grey and silver tend to have a negative impact. But to sum it up, red seems to have a positive impact, but the impact seems to be slightly less than in the 360 market. If we move on down with the 458, then we can see that things start to change. In this market it's clearly the mileage, the model year and the roof type that set the price. When we look at the colors we can see that they're almost irrelevant for the price, with exception of white. And this is an interesting finding, right? It first of all seems to support Ferrari's reported numbers in which they state that red cars take up a smaller share of production compared to the 90s and beginning of the zeros. In other words, demand for red cars decreased over time. Moreover, it's perfectly aligned with the increased popularity of white, and this is something which was reported in 2012 by Ferrari's communications senior vice president. He said that white was growing rapidly in popularity and that it's his personal opinion that the increase in white is linked to the increase in popularity of Apple products. So does this mean that resale red turned into resale white? I'm not sure, but let's keep this in the back of our mind. I by the way also looked at this chart for the coupes and the spiders, but that revealed the same patterns. If anything, white cars are more expensive, but in general color is not a significant price driver. And the latter is also what the 488 market is showing us. In this market we can see again that it's first and foremost the roof type which can explain the price. This is then followed by the mileage and the model year. The colors have almost no effect. And again, I also looked at this graph separately for the spiders and the coupes, and that confirmed this observation. Moreover, it's also aligned with what we can see in the F8 tributo market. We can see again that the mileage, roof type and model year are dominating the price and that the color is mostly irrelevant. Also here, this picture doesn't change for the coupes and the spiders. Both are dominated by the mileage. And with that, let's do a little summary before we move on to the front engine cars. Resale red, is this a thing? Well, when we look at the older cars such as the 360 and the F430, red cars indeed seem to have a higher price than the non-red cars. But this effect disappears when we enter the 458 era. Over there it is white that seems to demand a slight premium, something which was also observed by Ferrari. When we look at the newer cars, so the 488 and F8 Tributo, color in general seems to be of little influence for the price, meaning that resale red is not a thing in those markets. So all of this seems to point towards the direction that resale red goes for older Ferraris, but not for the newer ones. But before we conclude anything on this, let's have a look at the front engine market, and we start with the 599. Over here we have the price driver graph for the 599s without the HGTE package. There are simply too few cars for sale with the package to say something reliable about the price drivers. Now again, first and foremost it's the mileage that sets the price, followed by the model year. I guess you know that now. When it comes to the colors, we can see that grey cars are more expensive and that black and charcoal ones are slightly cheaper. And this is in line with reports from Ferrari Australia. They state that grey is popular in the GT model range. There's some effect of red over here, but it's only very small. At least not enough to convince me of a resale red effect. Interestingly though, the F12 market shows something completely different. Over here we have again the usual suspects which set the price, the mileage and the model year. However, red clearly sticks out over here, suggesting that red cars are more expensive and that there is a resale red effect indeed. So what about the California then? We know that red is especially popular among first-time Ferrari buyers, and the California was positioned as an ideal first-time Ferrari. So we should be able to see some of that resale red effect in that market, right? Let's have a look. The beautiful thing about the California market is its size. There are plenty of them for sale which give us quite stable numbers. We can see first of all that the market is driven by the model year. This is no surprise. There are 10 model years available and a 2019 California is almost double the price of a 2009 one. Now the model year effect is followed by the mileage and then by the color red. Red cars are slightly more expensive than the rest, so there might be a resale red effect going on here. It's not as strong as what we saw in the 360, F430 or the F12 market, but it's clear that red cars have the upper hand. And these numbers, by the way, don't change a lot when you look at them for the California market or for the California T market. It's more or less the same. So that further reinforces the confidence that we can have in the picture over here. And with that, let's pull everything together and conclude. Is resale red a real thing or is it just a rumor? Based on the analysis what we did, it seems to be a thing, but it only applies to certain models. We saw the largest effect of it in the 360, F430 and F12 market. We also saw it in the California market, but the effect was smaller. We didn't see it in the 599, 458, 488 and F8 market. In the 458 market we could even see that white cars go for a premium. One thing however we saw in all markets. The color red never has a negative effect on the price. It either has no effect or it has a positive effect, and this definitely doesn't go for other colors, and it hereby further confirms that there might be such a thing as resale red. But why oh why can we only see this resale red effect for certain models? If you have any idea about this, please let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Personally, I think it might be related to the gap between the percentage of red cars that was produced versus the percentage that is available on the used market. It's pure speculation, but I think that the larger the gap, the higher the resale red effect. Over here we have the percentage of red cars for each of the models and for each of the market snapshots for that model. And the dashed line shows the median percentage for each model. I could only find that in the 90s around 85% of the Ferraris were ordered in red, whereas it came down to around 40 to 35% in 2012 and 2014. So for the 360 and F430 market, this means that with a median percentage of 30 and 34%, the percentage of red cars for sale is relatively low compared to the share of red cars produced. Moreover, given that red was extremely popular among buyers back then, this popularity might still be reflected in today's buyers group. And the same might apply to the F12 market. The share of red cars is a lot lower over there, but it's likely that also the share of produced red cars was a lot lower than for, let's say, the 360. So it's about the relationship between the two numbers. Moreover, for the F8 and 488, where we saw none of this resale red effect, we can see that the share of red cars is very close to the produced share of red cars. But again, the importance of this gap we talked about is just speculation. I don't have the data to back this up. Now before we end the video, I still would like to highlight two things. First of all, even though that we didn't find the existence of resale red in all markets, it still might be so that there are other benefits attached to the color red. Think for example about the time it takes to sell a car. It's likely that this is lower for a red Ferrari than for a non-red Ferrari. Second, even though that the group of people who want a red car is large, there are also a lot of people who don't want a red one. They want to stand out from the crowd and prefer a rare color. If it then happens to be so that one of the cars with a rare color comes for sale, someone might be willing to pay more for that than for a red car. Unfortunately though, due to the rareness of these colors, it's difficult to capture this effect in the data. So to sum up the video, we can be quite sure that a red color doesn't harm the value. If anything, it increases it. And this goes especially for the 360, F430 and F12, and to a lesser extent for the California. So the effect is mostly visible for the older cars. It doesn't appear in the younger markets like the one for the 488 and F8. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets but would have liked to see the analysis for a different car, let me know the name of the car for which you would like to see an analysis down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it. Don't forget to subscribe and to click on the notification bell so you get actually notified when your requested analysis goes live. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.